Looking back, I see that my 7 years of marriage were a trick. I fell for the trap that he set for me bit by bit. David and I were college classmates. He wooed me for 3 years. Back then he was sunny, handsome, and considerate. He was the prince charming in the eyes of every girl. I fell for him. After we graduated, we got married. After we got married, we had a sweet time. He was very good to me, caring and obedient. I thought that was happiness. Until I found out I was pregnant and was about to tell him the good news, everything changed. That day I came home from work early to surprise him. Instead, I heard him and another woman's voices at the bedroom door. That woman, Kelly, was his secretary. Their conversation hit me like a knife. David, when are you going to divorce her? I don't want to keep sneaking around like this. Kelly's sweet voice made me sick. Soon, baby. Isn't she pregnant now? After she gives birth, I'll tell her the truth. David's voice was so gentle that it felt strange to my ears. But what if she gives birth to a daughter? Aren't you always wanting a son? Don't worry. I've already thought of a solution. I'll tell her that we want to have another child, but this time we'll find better genes. David's voice sounded cold and distant like a stranger's. Better genes? You mean using a donor? Kelly's voice was full of surprise. Exactly. I've already made the arrangements, and as soon as she agrees, we can. I couldn't bear to hear any more. I stormed into the room and confronted him about what was going on. David looked at me, first stunned, then quickly regained his composure. He explained that it was just a misunderstanding and that he and Kelly were just discussing work. I sneered and played the recording of the phone call for him to listen to. His face instantly turned pale. You heard it all, he stuttered. What do you think? I retorted, my voice shaking. He was silent. I looked at him, my heart filled with despair. David, let's get a divorce. He looked up at me, his eyes full of disbelief. Divorce? Are you crazy? You're pregnant now. What will happen to you and the baby if we get a divorce? Don't worry about it, I said coldly. I'll get an abortion. He seemed shocked by my words, and it took him a while to say, Don't be impulsive. The baby is innocent. Innocent. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. David, who are you to talk to me about innocence? Your child with Kelly isn't innocent. He opened his mouth wanting to say something, but in the end he didn't. That night we slept in separate rooms. It was the first time since we got married that we slept in separate rooms. The next day he transferred a sum of money to me via PayPal, saying it was compensation. I looked at the bank transfer information and found it extremely ridiculous. Did he think money could solve all problems? Did he think money could buy my feelings and my dignity? I refused to accept the money and told him that I didn't want it. I wanted a divorce. He disagreed, saying he loved me and couldn't live without me. I looked at him and felt disgust. I asked him, David, you love me? If you love me, would you sleep with other women? If you love me, would you trick me into having a child with another man? He was silent again. In the following days we fell into a cold war. He left early every morning and returned late at night, paying no attention to me. I didn't want to see him either and locked myself in my room every day. Until our wedding anniversary. On that day I was prepared to get a divorce. But I still had a glimmer of hope in my heart, hoping that he would change his mind. I prepared a candlelit dinner and waited for him to come home. But what I got was a phone call from him. Honey, I'm going to work overtime tonight, so I won't be home. Overtime. I sneered. David, are you still lying to me? Are you with that woman again? He stuttered and couldn't find the words. I hung up the phone and threw away the food on the table. That moment I completely gave up. I made a phone call. Jim, do me a favor. I want a divorce. Jim, my childhood sweetheart, was also a lawyer. He said in one word. I knew he would help me because he has always liked me. The next day I went to the hospital. I had to make a difficult decision, to have an abortion. I know that this child is innocent. But I can't keep him. I can't let him become a victim of David and Kelly. Outside the obstetrics and gynecology department I saw a familiar figure. It was my brother. Why was he here? Brother, why are you here? I asked in surprise. I came to see you, he stammered. I looked at him and suddenly understood something. Jim told you, didn't he? He nodded. Silly girl, why didn't you tell me about such an important matter? He looked at me with concern and said, "Come on, I'll go in with you." I shook my head. "Brother, you go back. I can go by myself." "No, I'm not at ease." He insisted on accompanying me. I couldn't argue with him, so I had to agree. The doctor examined me and confirmed my physical condition. "Are you really sure?" The doctor looked at me and confirmed again. I nodded. "Okay, then you go pay first and then." The doctor's words were interrupted by a voice. "Wait." I turned my head and saw David and Kelly. Why were they here? David stopped moving for a moment when he saw me, then quickly walked up to me. "Why are you here?" he asked, sounding worried. "Why can't I be here?" I asked back, my tone cold. "Does it matter to you?" I said coldly. He opened his mouth wanting to say something, but in the end he didn't. Kelly walked over and put her arm around David's arm, speaking softly. "David, let's go, don't bother people." She seemed to be speaking for me, but she was actually asserting her authority. I looked at them and just felt ridiculous. "David, haven't you always wanted a son? Now you've got what you wanted," I said lightly, looking at Kelly's stomach. Kelly's face instantly turned pale. David's face also turned pale. "How do you know?" he asked angrily. "If you want no one to know, you must do nothing that will arouse suspicion," I said coldly. "David, do you really think I don't know about the things you've done?" I. He stammered, unable to speak. "That's enough." I interrupted him. "David, there's nothing more to say between us. I'll have my lawyer send you the divorce papers." With that, I turned around and walked away. "Stop." David grabbed my arm. "You can't go. The baby you're carrying is mine. You can't get an abortion. Let go of me." I shook his hand off. "David, who are you to talk to me about children? Are you worthy?" He didn't say anything for a while. "David, you shouldn't be acting this way," Kelly said, trying to convince him. "If she doesn't want the baby, you should just let her go." She seemed to be trying to stop the fight, but she was actually making things worse. "Shut up," David shouted. "It's all your fault, you bitch. If it weren't for you, she and I wouldn't be in this situation." Kelly was shocked by his words and froze in place. I watched them fight like dogs and I felt nothing. "David, you really disgust me," I said coldly. "Let's get a divorce, the sooner the better." After saying that, I turned around and left again. This time David didn't stop me. I walked out of the hospital and took a deep breath. I knew that it was completely over between him and me. But I didn't expect that this was only the beginning. What happened next made me see David's true colors. Not long after I left the hospital, my phone started ringing nonstop. I thought it was Jim or my brother, but when I opened it, it was full of WhatsApp and Twitter notifications. What's going on? I clicked on Twitter and the first thing I saw was from Kelly. "I'm grateful to have met you and I hope to learn from you for the rest of my life. Heart, at David." The photo shows her and David smiling together. I let out a cold laugh and continued scrolling. David's group of friends have left messages below. "Congratulations, David. You've got the girl." "David, you're not being very nice. You kept such an important thing from us." "Exactly. When are you going to invite us to the wedding?" As I read these messages, I feel sick. What's even more disgusting is that someone has DM'd me. Eve, what do you think? Everyone else has found their soulmate, but you're still all alone. That's really sad. Exactly. If you'd known how it would turn out, you wouldn't have done it in the first place. If you'd been nicer to David, you wouldn't be in this situation today. Women, you just can't be too pushy, otherwise sooner or later the man will run off with someone else. I trembled with anger as I read these vicious comments. These people were David's friends and they were also my friends. But now they were siding with Kelly and taunting me. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I couldn't let them get to me. I edited a tweet and sent it out. "Thank you all for your concern. My marriage to Mr. David has come to an end. There is no one to blame, we just stopped loving each other. As for Miss Kelly, I wish her and Mr. David a happy and lasting marriage. I would also like to advise someone not to base their happiness on someone else's misery. Otherwise, sooner or later they will suffer the consequences." After sending the tweet, I exited the app directly. I didn't want to see those disgusting comments anymore. I thought that would be the end of it. But I didn't realize that a bigger storm was waiting for me. The next day I got a call from Jim. Something's happened, he said, sounding serious. What is it? I asked. Check the trending topics on Weibo, he said. That I opened Weibo and saw a headline that shocked me. #David Kelly #. I clicked on it and found someone had revealed the truth about David and Kelly. The content of the news was even more detailed than what I knew. It included how David had pursued Kelly, how he had cheated on me, how he had plotted against me, and how he had forced me to get a divorce. It even included Kelly's dark past. It turned out that Kelly was not some innocent person but someone who had cheated on people in the past. She had destroyed other people's families before driving the original wife to suicide. She had also been kept by multiple men and her private life was in a complete mess. The pictures that came with the story made it hard to believe that these things weren't true. Public opinion was outraged. David and Kelly had become public enemies, hated by everyone. As I read the news, I didn't feel happy. I only felt sad. I felt sad for myself for having loved such a man. I felt sad for Kelly for having betrayed her soul for the sake of a man. I felt especially sad for David, who ruined his reputation for Kelly. At that moment my phone rang. It was David. I hesitated for a moment, but then I answered. Did you see it? His voice sounded weak. Yes, I said. Do you believe it's all true? Does it matter? I asked. It matters. Of course it's not true. Someone is setting me up. You have to believe me. David, will you believe me now? I said angrily. I don't want to get involved in your affair with Kelly anymore. You two do whatever you want. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I thought that was the end of it. But I didn't expect Jim to call me again. I took revenge for you, he said, sounding very pleased. What do you mean? I asked. You'll see, he replied. I waited a long time, but I never got to see Jim's good show. Until one day I received an unfamiliar phone call. Hello, is this Ms. Eve? An unfamiliar voice asked. Yes, who is this? I'm David's mother. David's mother? Why was she calling me? Hello, Auntie, may I ask what I can do for you? I asked politely. Eve, you bitch. Why did you do this to my son? David's mother suddenly yelled at the other end of the line. Are you jealous of Kelly because she's younger and prettier than you, so you deliberately set her up? Auntie, what are you talking about? I don't understand, I frowned. Don't pretend you don't know what you've done. You got someone to spread the rumors, you hired internet trolls, you're nothing but a snake in the grass. Auntie, let me say this again, I have never done any of those things. If you keep being so unreasonable, I'm going to hang up. Don't you dare. If you hang up on me, I'll go to your house and make a scene. I'll let everyone know what a vicious woman you are. Her words made me laugh. Auntie, go ahead and make a scene. Anyway, David and I are already divorced, and the louder you make a scene, the more you'll embarrass the Lee family. After saying that, I hung up the phone. I stood behind the window watching them, and I just felt ridiculous. I called Jim. Jim, didn't you say you were going to help me get back at them? Is this how you get back at them? Don't worry, the best is yet to come. Jim's voice sounded calm. What did you do? I asked. You'll find out soon enough. I hung up the phone, my heart filled with doubts. David and Kelly finally got their marriage license. I saw it on Twitter. Kelly posted a photo of the marriage license with the caption, "To have and to hold. Heart, heart, at David." David retweeted this tweet and commented, "Honey, I love you." As I watched their interactions, my heart did not feel the slightest stir. In fact, I even felt a little bit like laughing. I laughed at their naivete, thinking that getting a marriage license would make them live happily ever after. I laughed at their stupidity, thinking that love could conquer all. I laughed even more at their pathetic belief that they could escape the punishment of fate. Sure enough, it wasn't long before I heard the good news about them. David's company went bankrupt. Their newlywed life was a complete mess. I heard the news at a friend's wedding. Hey, did you hear? David's company went bankrupt. Yeah, I heard. Seems like it was because of a broken capital chain. It's not just that. I heard that he offended a very important person and got screwed. Really? Who is so powerful? I don't know, but David is definitely screwed this time. Do you know Kelly? David's new wife. Yes, why? She's no good. I heard that she was a mistress before and drove her predecessor to suicide. Really? So vicious. Absolutely. I also heard that she has a messy personal life and has affairs with many men. Oh my God, how could David marry such a woman? Who knows, maybe he was blinded by her beauty. As I listened to all this gossip, I felt no pleasure, that I just felt bored. I didn't want to hear anything more about them, that I just wanted to live my own life. After the wedding, I returned to Norway and started a new life. I enrolled in a language course to learn Norwegian. I also planned to travel the world once I had mastered the language. I spent all my time enriching myself. I didn't want to let myself be consumed by the pain of the past. I thought I could forget David and everything that had happened. But I didn't expect him to show up again. That day I was at the library reading a book. Suddenly a familiar voice sounded in my ear. Eve. I looked up and saw David. He had lost a lot of weight and looked haggard. He was wearing a crumpled shirt and had a beard, looking very disheveled. Why are you here? I asked in surprise. I came to find you, he stuttered. Find me? Why? I asked coldly. I want to apologize to you. He lowered his head, afraid to look me in the eye. Apologize? For what? I sneered. You're not apologizing to me, you're apologizing to Kelly. No, the person I've wronged is you. He looked at me with regret in his eyes. Eve, I was wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed you or hurt you. Enough. I interrupted him. David, why are you saying this now? We're divorced, there's no relationship between us anymore. No, we're still connected, he said excitedly. Eve, let's get married again. I promise I'll treat you well from now on and never let you suffer again. Get married again. I laughed. David, have you gone crazy? Do you think it's still possible for us? Why not? He asked, his eyes full of hope. Eve, I know you still love me and I'm still in your heart, aren't I? David, you're so full of yourself, I said coldly. I admit that I once loved you, but that was in the past. Right now I don't have any feelings for you. You're just a stranger to me. No, I don't believe it. He shook his head, unwilling to accept this fact. Eve, you must be lying to me. You must still be angry with me, right? Will you forgive me? I beg you, forgive me. He got down on his knees, wrapped his arms around my legs and begged me with tears in his eyes. I looked at him and there was no trace of sympathy in my heart. I felt nothing but disgust. David, get up, I said coldly. The way you're behaving only makes me despise you more. No, I won't get up. He stubbornly remained kneeling. Eve, I won't get up until you forgive me. Suit yourself, I said, turning around and walking away. Eve, don't go. David stood up and followed me, saying, Eve, listen to me. I pushed him away and said, David, I don't want to see you again. If you keep bothering me, I'll call the police. Call the police, he said, shocked. He stood there frozen. I ignored him and quickly left the library. I thought that this was the end of it. However, I did not expect that David would not give up. He came to the library every day to wait for me and kept bothering me. I was so annoyed that I had to change libraries. However, he still found me. He was like a ghost haunting me. I was close to giving up. Just when I was about to despair, Jim appeared. He saved me from David's clutches. He beat David up and warned him that if he ever harassed me again, he would be sorry. David was so scared by him that he never dared to show his face in front of me again. I looked at Jim and my heart was full of gratitude. Thank you, Jim, I said. Don't be silly, don't stand on ceremony with me, he said with a smile. Are you okay? I'm fine, I shook my head. And you? Why are you here? I came to Norway on business and stopped by to see you. Oh. Eve, he suddenly looked at me with tender eyes. Let's be together. I froze. I didn't expect him to suddenly confess his love to me. Jim, you... I stuttered and couldn't find the words. I know that you haven't completely forgotten the past, he looked at me with eyes full of understanding, but I will wait for you. I will always wait for you until the day when you are willing to accept me. I looked at him, my heart filled with emotion. I didn't know if I would ever be able to love someone else, but I knew that Jim was someone who deserved my love. I nodded. Okay, he said, smiling like a child. He hugged me, holding me tightly. I closed my eyes and felt his warmth. I knew that my new life had begun.